How's the curve?
It's crazy. It is very crazy because from Seneca to 737, I remember just that first take. Our first there's the simulator. Of course, you do the exam, you pass the rating, you go to sim. Sim was the crazy part. Now, when sportpesa started, I was not involved at all.
Okay.
All in the running. All I could get is updates. We have 2 guys have registered.
Yes.
3 guys. You get those updates. But I was never involved.
Before we go to politics, did anyone call you like Illuminati?
Everything. But no. And that's what I'm saying. Kenya, sometimes we are our own worst enemies. The problems we've had in Kenya did not start yesterday. This is years and years of electing wrong people into those offices, people who are going there to make money and crazy money. And how do they make that money? Is through corruption and whatever. That has happened throughout the years.
Hey, every other time with Eric, man. We just keep getting better and better. More treats for you as we go. Today I got a special guest in the studio, a personal one for me. It's been a long time coming. I've been really patient. He's been very kind. I damn near stalked him, but very respectful, very humble. RONALD KARAURI, what a pleasure to have you in every other time studios, man.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
How are you doing, man?
I'm good. Today couldn't be better.
Today got you on a bit of a free day.
Yeah, we were supposed to be in Parliament, but you know what's going on with the impeachment.
Yes.
So what happened is that today is an off day. Then tomorrow we do the public participation hearings. Then next week we see what happens.
Apparently banks were full today.
Why?
Because of tomorrow.
No.
So just for the audience, this is a hybrid episode. This is an airman mixed with normal every other time because, of course, for obvious reasons. What can I call you?
No, I like
Mahesh.
Captain RONALD KARAURI. That's what I prefer.
Fantastic. In fact, that makes it easier because for obvious reasons, Captain RONALD KARAURI is a retired 737 Kenya Airways captain. And he transitioned, of course, into business, into politics, and all this under the age of 45, which is just revolutionary, man. So we'll start from, I won't take it back from you were born here. No. I'll start with the aviation bug.
Yes.
When did the aviation journey start for you?
So flying, I always wanted to fly. So when I was in campus, I had actually started taking flying lessons at Wilson because I had told my dad I want to fly. But then, of course, he used to say, you know what, you need to finish your degree first. And then at the time also, in terms of affordability of flying, it wasn't something that, he could just abandon and go pay for the flying. So I did a few lessons, but then I got lucky because that's the time KQ started the ab initio pilot program, which I applied for. I was successful and I started flying. I think that was in 2002. So in fact, 2002 is when we were in Addis for the
I always try rob my guests of their humility. So for ab initio, you make it sound like I just apply. You had to be an apex student in terms of high school. And just for the Kenyan audience, you went to Mang. We can leave it there. That speaks volumes.
Yeah.
So you applied for ab initio. Of course, there's quite a process for you to actually get shortlisted.
Yes. In fact, at the time, because it was the first one.
Yeah.
So you can imagine the number of applications was crazy because it had never been done before. I think the last time KQ did that was maybe in the 80s or something.
Yes.
So it was something that everybody was looking for. The applications were crazy. I remember the first round of tests we had to do had chemistry, physics, those kind of things before you go to the psychometric and all that. So the number of applicants was crazy. And then they needed, I think, only 15 people. I think by the time we went to Addis, we were even a bit more than 15. And then in Addis, the medical checkups were very crazy because, the training for Addis was they trained the military pilots alongside the commercial pilots. And to meet the standards medically, it's like you're going into the military.
Yes.
So they were very, very strict. So a few people dropped off from there as well.
So did you have to go back to like your flip up of your chemistry books from high school?
Yes. Because it was pure chemistry. that chemistry, which it's, if you stay out of school for 2 years, you've forgotten. So we had to pass all that. So it wasn't easy, by the way. Just getting through that hurdle to go to Addis.
Yeah.
was not easy because you were competing with a lot of people. So that's why sometimes I say I was lucky to be one of the few that was selected at the time.
So you've touched on something interesting. I never knew that the first guys went to Addis. I always thought to South Africa.
We went to Addis. Then why people started going to South Africa is because there was a lot of complaints from our group. Because in terms of the food, we had to start eating injera there.
Injera.
Nobody could, move to injera. They had very few like restaurants which you could afford and have normal food. So people were complaining that it was a difficult place to study.
And were the instructors, because we've had rumors about like being smacked?
Yeah, guys were getting smacked. Yeah, the instructors were harsh. Remember again, the instructors for Addis, these are military guys. So they don't know any other way. And you see, for Ethiopian Airlines Flight Training School, it was never really commercial. It was to train Ethiopian Airlines pilots.
Yes.
So they're not looking for money. They want just good pilots.
So feelings.
There's no feelings. Either you can fly or you can't fly. And for them to get you to do that fast solo, remember fast solo?
Yes.
And for Addis, they had a limited number of hours. If you pass this number of hours and you've not gone solo, you're just out. Go home. Yes.
For the sake of my fans, especially the people who are just joining us on Airmen, fast solo is the first time you get to fly a commandeer plane alone. You fly a racetrack pattern, take off, land alone in a light aircraft. What aircraft did they start you on?
172.
Cessna 172.
172 was the flight training aircraft.
We'll put one on the screen for the sake. How was that?
It was good. I think flying is something either you have or you don't have, in terms of the skill and everything. Because, in fact, in our class, the sharpest guy in our class was an Ethiopian guy who was doing, he was the only guy who was beating me in the exams. And, I'm proud to say.
Yes.
But,
Mangu.
But now when it came to handling the aircraft, he had a lot of difficulty. So he couldn't go solo. So he actually had to be dropped, even though he was very bright in terms of the theoretical work and everything.
That's a very important thing to bring up, because a lot of guys assume we're either one or the other. You're a daft guy, so you chose flying, or so that's that balance of stick and rudder skills. Correct. Can you fly the aircraft literally? And it comes into play in the more advanced aircraft. And then, of course, do you have the academic ability to pass the different thresholds of examinations?
Correct.
So you went solo at how many hours, if I may?
I remember. Now, in Addis, by the time, if you start getting to 25 hours,
Gori.
If you get to 30 hours, you've left already. So I think I did maybe 21. I honestly cannot remember, but I think most likely before 25.
And I went to school with some ab initio guys now in SA, in Progress Flight Academy. Some went to 43, some are in Progress.
Yes.
I know that you guys are so competitive. Those solo exams, guys are breaking records, examination-wise.
Yeah, because you can imagine you are a group of guys from Kenya, in a different country, and then you're all sponsored by the airline.
And all top-notch Kenyan performers.
Yeah, so people are very competitive when you're there.
Is this where you met your lovely wife? Because I know she's also a pilot.
Yes, we met in Addis. Because she came to Addis direct from high school. So I always joke that she started flying before she could even drive. So she had a flying license before she had a driving license.
Did the romance start then? Or?
Yes. That's when we met, and things, got to where they are.
You helped each other at ground schools, crossos.
Yeah, but you never get to fly together when you're Uko. But yeah, that's where it started, and it blossomed.
You know why I ask that? I was also an instructor at some point in recent past, about 2.5 years ago. And in today's times, aviation schools have had to have a mix and match of the college experience, in as much as even allowing people to date and do their thing. Whereas when I went to school, it was quite rigid.
Okay.
Even talking to instructors was, when you're talked to, it was not as free. So are you allowed to be a couple in school, or it was between you and...
it wasn't like closet kabisa, but it wasn't like... It was... Everybody knew. It wasn't a secret.
Yeah.
And I don't think anybody there was no big deal, because I think the instructors there were just looking at performance. Are you guys doing okay?
Yes.
And it wasn't a problem at all.
So how was you finished your private pilot license, then you advanced to the commercial pilot license?
Yes. Now for Addis, what they're doing, you see, KQ had paid for the package. Yes. You come back, you have CPL, IR, ME. So there was never that, for example, when you do the flying in Nairobi, there's that transition. You've done PPL, you have the license.
Also, it was an integrated course.
Yes.
Okay.
You go solo, you finish all the hours. What you get at the end CPL, IR, ME.
A CPL is a commercial pilot license, and ME is a multi-engine. So you're flying an aircraft with more than one engine, and an IR, you're flying without reference to outside.
Yes.
So for the most part, when you advance in aviation, you fly such aircraft, you don't necessarily rely on visual cues. Visual cues come towards the end of the maneuver when you're landing, or the beginning when you're taking off, and then it becomes instrument flying.
Correct.
You can imagine how limiting it would be for if flying was all visual. It would mean there's no flights at night.
Exactly.
As soon as there's weather, there's no flights. So that was the advent of instrument flying. So how long was the whole course, the duration?
I think approximately 2 years. Just 2 years. So of course, we finished, came back to Nairobi. We have to convert. And, Ethiopian, their exams and their rating is FAA based.
Yes.
So when you came back to Kenya, to KCAA, and the exams are completely different.
And FAA, I tend to agree more with the Western approach to education. Need to know, good to know.
Correct.
Then you come, I've had that dilemma of people even from the States coming and FAA, and then now you're given KCA exams and it's like, hey, what is all this?
They are crazy.
Well, there are things like data banks back then where you questions you practice.
Yes, there were. But then, you see, it was like coming to a whole new environment. FAA, we did, I think for the CPL, the exams were just 2 in Addis. One combines everything, MET, everything combined, then air law is one exam. So when we came here, you know how the exams are here.
It's a composite, but now of 8 things.
Yes.
8 different subjects.
Correct.
Oh my goodness.
Now we got back here, then the exam was, we had to again go back to the books.
Yes.
And refresh completely, do some, as you say, those databases of questions specific for KCA exam, CPL here.
And being the first, it means, another thing about flying is there's so much apprenticeship at every level.
Yes.
So being that you're the first ab initio guys, there's no one to hold your hand through all these processes.
Nobody.
So you're coming back, shock on you, exams are different, they're
exactly.
Crazy. And what about the flying? What are the flying requirements now once you came back for the conversion?
So the conversion now, you have to do some takeoffs and landings. It wasn't a big deal, actually. A few circuits.
At Kenya School of Flying?
Yes.
Yeah.
At Wilson, we did a few circuits, which was nice to touch a plane in Nairobi. Some of us have never, now when you fly in Nairobi or you've learned to fly in Nairobi, you know the topography.
Yes.
Gong
hills.
Exactly. Now us, we didn't have the luxury. Us, we knew Ethiopia.
What's the topography in Ethiopia? Is it flat or hilly?
It's very high. In fact, Bole is higher than Nairobi.
That's a very good place to train then.
Yeah, very good to train. Because that's why they needed 172s, and their 172s were very powerful.
Oh, performance-wise?
Performance-wise, because of the altitude. I think Bole, if I'm not wrong, is over 8,000 feet.
That's a very good place to get your performance criteria in order, because most people train at the coast, and of course, planes.
So you can use any small plane, small engine.
In fact, we're always fighting exceedances at the coast. Sometimes you have to pitch just above the flight director to make sure you don't get a flap 5 exceedance.
Okay.
So I think for me, this is personal because I know the jump from a multi-engine training aircraft. I'm sure you did it on a Baron?
No, it was a
Seneca.
Yes,
Seneca 5.
Seneca 2.
Yes, Seneca 2. We'll put that on the screen as well. Wow. Seneca 2. And then now you go to KQ.
Yes.
And you guys there was no Embraer yet.
Nope. Boeing 737.
737.
Classic.
Now, for context, classic, when you use the word classic, there's many variants of the 737. Classic ni ile origi. So even
no glass cockpit.
Yeah, technology ni ile origi. The glass cockpit is a LED screens. This one is dials,
yes.
Gauges,
engines.
I've seen the overhead panel, so many toggles, man.
Exactly.
So what was that? and there was no, as guys have, I don't know by the time you left KK if you had EFB yet.
We did. I left, yes, we had started using them, but not as seriously as you guys use now.
So you guys, manuals was kushika manual, kitabu.
Yes.
So
the charts, everything.
Physical charts.
Of course.
So where do you study? Is there like a library? Because every pilot is issued with a manual.
Yes. So you have you have your own set of books.
Yes.
So remember our flight bags?
Yes.
Yeah. So, but of course in the plane you have a set.
Readily available.
In the plane you also have a set of so you don't have to carry really, because you just plug whatever charts you need, and you use that.
So when you're studying for the aircraft-related material for the type rating, you're using physical books.
Yes.
Wow.
Yeah, but there was CBT as well. Even that time, it was there. CBT was there.
You know what? The reason I'm also asking, so I'm imagining even if you take it back, the Panams of this world, so it must mean they had buildings for documents.
Yes.
Just for that purpose.
Yeah. So CBT was there. It was there, but of course, books were there. The transition was...
How was the curve?
It's crazy. It is very crazy because from a Seneca to a 737, I remember just that first take. Our first there's the simulator. Of course, you do the exam, you pass the rating, you go to sim. Sim was the crazy part.
Where did you do your sim?
In London. I think we did it. Yeah, it was in London.
Sim, again, for the viewer, you have to do, I think, 8 sessions of 4 hours each, where you swap roles with your training partner, where you simulate all different kinds of scenarios from normal flying to what they focus on is non-normal. Engine failures, engine fires, depressurizations, correct, and all of that. So when you're coming from a Piper, and then crazy. Now you're...
and then we were the instructor we got at the time. You know, now I appreciate him. His name was called Hichi Mwangi, but he was known as the most roughest warlord in training. And remember, us guys are coming from that plane.
Yes.
When we went for sim training in that 7-3, just takeoff, and then what he was doing, our standard instrument departures,
yes, our
takeoffs were always from Amsterdam, London. Remember, you've come from Addis Ababa.
Yes.
One runway with a Piper Seneca and a Cessna 172. You take a simulator, the guy puts for you the charts for a departure from Heathrow, which you're supposed to fly with no LNAV or VNAV.
Raw data flight.
Raw data, because you've tuned the VORs, you intercept. Radials, turn, intercept again, turn, intercept, and the speed. It was crazy because we even had extra sessions just to get used to the cockpit, the way...
because of you guys, a previous episode, Captain Malu was saying how eventually they had to introduce something called jet orientation.
Yes,
because the curve was just too crazy. I myself have been a victim of trying... I did the interviews for KQ sometime in 2019 and... I'd only flown a Caravan at that time. So I remember, first of all, you're sitting on the third. It feels like you're on the 3rd floor of a building.
Yes.
You start powering up this thing, as in things are moving so fast. There's very lag, fast. There's all of this.
Very fast.
Man, I felt like someone put a spoon in my brain and korogat.
It's like you're lost.
Yeah. So, wow, that's quite something. So you do your sim?
Yeah, we did sim, which was nuts because I remember just before I was being cleared for the check, because you do the sessions, then the instructor will tell you you're good.
Proceed.
Go do the check. That last flight before the check, I remember I was about to land with the landing gear up. So I think we had gotten hydraulic failure, engine fires, the drama.
Yes.
Everything had failed.
Horns are just going off.
Everything is gone. You're flying manually because this guy used to give you all the emergencies. If you're handling something and something else happens. If you have an engine fire and you're flying okay with a single engine, the hydraulics disappear or you lose your instruments.
Yeah.
So by the time we're coming to land, so somehow in the checklist, you guys are just trying to get on the ground. We're coming to get on the ground, then you just hearing the warnings of too low. Then
too low gear.
He just switched off he froze the sim. You know that feeling of the sim being frozen? Yes. Then you're like, wow, now I have failed this thing. Let me plan how I'll go back to campus because this flying is too hard for me. Then when we went to the debrief, he just told us, okay, what do you guys think you did? Now, how do you guys think you did? So you just sit there like, I have no words. I don't know what to say. The guy says, okay, I've cleared you for the check. You're like, what? Okay.
I find that a very peculiar thing about sim. So when we're in Canada, every session, and there's no session where you feel absolutely confident. Like, I think except for sim 1, the rest were all, and you don't start with how did it go? You have to gauge.
Like, what?
And I realized what good instructors do is constantly remove you from your comfort zone. So if you're handling it, you're so super, this engine failure, number 1, bleed hot.
Everything goes.
So the fact that he was throwing things on you means probably things were going fairly well.
Exactly. Now later I learned maybe that's what he was doing.
So in this time for sim and initial rating and Are you and your wife confiding about how things are tough, yani?
Yeah, because I think I went for sim first, because there's a way they ranked us who will go fast. I went, then you come and say, wow, that thing is nuts. But I think for her also, she went. I think the instructors were different. I don't think she would have survived my instructor. So I think even they were cognizant of that in terms of choosing who's gonna. Yeah, because ours was crazy. Then when you come back to line flying, you discover again it's a bit different, because at the sim we were just dealing with failures, emergencies. Then now you have to fly normally.
Normal procedure,
talking to passengers. It was a bit different.
How was line training in terms of, course, I always use my experience as an example. I found line training harder than sim. Sim was, again, Canada, westerly approach. Line training was where I had to dig deep to finish.
Your instructors in Canada were?
We had a guy who was ex-Turkish Air and an American.
Yeah, now our KQ guys, I think there was a culture in KQ of terrorizing students. Hopefully that has gone by now, because even when I was in Kalpa, we were trying to push that, train people to learn, not to terror. You're not trying to test whether someone is a superhero.
Yes.
Just train with them so that they're very good at flying and emergencies, but don't break people. So hopefully that has changed, because we realized when we went to training with other instructors who are maybe Americans or whatever, they were teaching.
It's a completely different
approach. And that's why probably when you say line flying was different, it depends on how you were being taught, because it could be easy, it could be hard, and someone can terrorize you so much that you don't even get, because flying you need to be relaxed.
Now, granted, in my company, you're paired with one instructor all through for line, and now we're very good friends. In fact, when we fly together, but for training, I used to come in the morning in that park, the pilot park.
Yes.
Take a deep breath and just look up and be like, another day. My wife used to see me after work and just be like, are you okay? And it was that stressful. So
yeah, so it was similar, not as crazy, because for me the sim was the craziest. With that instructor, it was nuts. So anything was easier. So when we came to line, it was tough, yes, because now there's no room for mistakes. You're flying passengers.
Yes.
It's not a joke, but it wasn't as crazy, to be honest. I didn't find it as bad as sim.
So once you eventually check out, and now you're a line pilot, you have no backup, and now you're no longer training environment. It's just operational environment. How was that first experience? Because you're flying the 737, the destinations are pretty diverse. You're getting to go to other territories.
Yes.
Layover. Something in my company unfortunately we don't experience, because we're home every day. It's a good thing, it's a bad thing, depending on how you look at it. How was that experience as a young man?
It's very nice, and can be, because the time I was in KQ was thriving.
Yes.
KQ was this big airline, really growing. It was performing better than all our neighbors. So it was a nice time to be in KQ then. And we had good destinations all over. Dakar, the layovers were nice. When you're young, it's very nice. You travel and, do
exciting,
all those things. It's exciting.
Bonuses, I hear, was a thing.
Yeah, bonuses was because you see, for extra nights you get paid. So people really liked having many extra nights. But the more you fly, you're like, I want to be home more. But it was a very nice experience. And then we are lucky because the airline was growing so fast. So we were moving up the fleets very quickly. Like personally, I did 2 years on 73, 2 years 76, 2 years 777. Then I went for command.
Do you know how much it has changed now? There are guys staying on a fleet 8.
I know.
I had a friend of mine who stayed for 10 years on one fleet.
Now they're not moving.
That's very frustrating for someone who's trying to advance, because you always climb the ladder as a first officer, then you come back down as a commander, and then climb again.
Correct.
So 2 years is that's
very
optimum.
Short. Very short, actually.
What about how was turn up, man? Turn up.
No, it was.
Pilots are known. We're known.
It was. We really did our time when we were flying. It was, and and then it was a group of young guys who have all come and checked out.
Money.
Yeah. Now suddenly you're making so much money and you're very young, because even if you start working at, let's say you're 23, 24 years old, you're making 500,000 shillings per month is
then
a lot of
that
money.
Is wild money.
It's a lot of money. You don't have any responsibilities. So yeah, the partying was a lot. It was.
Was there any sensitization about financial
not
literacy?
really, to be honest. So some people got lost along the
First car? Did you buy what did you gift yourself as a first officer?
My first car, the one I bought, my first car was a car I bought for my mom.
Yes.
A Mitsubishi
From or
Lancer.
for? From.
Yeah. So I was not looking to, buy something fancy or anything. But my second car now was an Evo.
Yeah.
I had gone to Dubai, I spotted this car. I was like, I think I need to go back with it. Yeah. So my first car was just a Mitsubishi Lancer I bought from my mom. But my second car now was the Evo.
Making noise in the parking.
Yes.
That's a very common thing for crew.
Yes, I had an Evo. It was really, I still love it to date, but now it's an old.
You still have it?
No, I had to sell it at some point.
So when do you and the missus formalize? At what point?
That was like in 2008. I think I was just about to go for command or something. Yeah, then we had a nice big wedding.
Yeah. So for the pilot watching, or the aviator, or the future aviator watching, because you flew the 7.3, then you flew the 7.6, then the triple.
Triple, yeah.
What did you prefer? Mid-haul, long-haul?
Now, I think, to be honest, I preferred the 737, the NG.
Yes.
I think I really preferred it. In terms of flying it, that feeling of flying the plane, that's the plane I loved. 777 was amazing. I never got now to fly the Dreamliner. But I think 7.3 also the destinations, because you get to fly a lot of Africa.
Yes.
It's a lot of flying. When you fly 777, it's really nice because, of course, you're going to those long-haul destinations. And it was also a really nice plane to fly. But you don't get to fly that much because you go to London, do your layover, come back. You go to Bangkok, stay a week, come back.
Does it get old? Do destinations get old over time? Like I've been to Bangkok now 85
They
times.
do actually, because there's only so much you can do.
I appreciate that honesty.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do because you go the first time you're going to Bangkok, like especially Bangkok as a destination.
Yeah,
everyone has hyped you up. Your whole life you've been told about Bangkok, so you're very excited to get there. So the first few times is very exciting. But at some point, staying in one destination, especially for me, staying in one destination for a week, it gets old. Sometimes even when you see that destination, you're like, you know what, I don't want to go.
So of course, the more seasoned you get, even in terms of the excitos have to lead, like you're not necessarily going out.
Yeah.
How would you spend your time? Gym
a lot. Then there's always stuff to do. It's good to have, if you have guys there, you can just hang out. Yeah. And going out doesn't have to be. When you're young, it's daily. You're just going out, go for the flight, go out. So it doesn't have to be daily. It can be once if there's something new. But other than that, it actually does get old.
We keep hearing about this warlord culture. Mm-hmm. Now, you were there at a time where there was still remnants of...
Yes, it was fading, but it was there.
How was it flying with a warlord for 8-9 hours?
It's not good because there's no even conversation. And that's a long flight. Like, I started taking coffee because of the London.
Yeah.
Our London flight, I think it's still there, KQ102, which leaves midnight almost. So that's when I started taking coffee because, believe me, when you get to London and you're holding, because London you have to hold because of traffic. By that time you're holding there, you will start dozing off.
No stories?
Now imagine you've flown 8 hours, night, no stories, you're just awake. Then there's a guy who's just a guy of orders. It's really not pleasant. But that has faded completely. You see, if someone knows they can handle whatever comes in the plane, and I'm flying with a co-pilot, I don't have to start, being so domineering on this guy, and he's a young guy who's learning, and I know whatever happens, I'm here anyway.
Yes.
You get my point. So I never had those kind of issues, and I had fun. Even when I came for command, it was really nice.
It was a nice transition. And that's just in 6 years. That's a very short time.
Very short time.
Came back onto the 7.3 there,
7.3. Good thing. I think as a captain, the classics were now just fading out. They were being transitioned to cargo. So we did some cargo flights but now it was mostly NG. So it was really nice.
NG is next generation. The 800, yeah? Mm-hmm. So now you're 737 skipper. Like I'm sharing with the audience. This is usually like the fantasy for most pilots. I flew a 7.3 command, and that's, if you're lucky, maybe Dreamliner, etc. But you are just a step from the very apex of Kenyan aviation. And at the time, they were not Dreamliners yet.
They were there, but we were a bit far. So they had just come, yeah.
So as you're doing all of this, are you thinking about your pivot? Or, because that's a big conversation right now in aviation, and you're very integral in inspiring that. In that, I don't just have to be a career pilot. It's amazing. It's a great foundation. It's the best job if you're to have one, if you ask me.
Yes, it is.
But there's so much more to life. So at what point did you start thinking of pivoting?
So I think even as pilots, even when we used to discuss with older pilots, when now I was a co-pilot, there was always that desire for pilots to do something different, which I'm proud of you. You're actually starting something. Congrats.
Thank you so much.
So people want to do something different, but always the challenge was everything that a pilot wanted to do, the business, it required your presence.
Yes.
So, and if you're not present,
it won't work.
It doesn't work. So the idea had always been there, but now it came to what is it that would work. And for me, the first thing was a club. There was a club called Skylarks.
Yes.
Which I had some shares in.
Oh, Skylarks.
Yeah.
You got some of my revenue.
Oh, you went to Skylarks.
Definitely. I was a very young guy.
Skylarks. Yeah. So that was my first thing. So I think, as you say, I hadn't really thought it so deeply that I need, because I enjoyed flying very much. I hadn't really thought like I need to get out of it. And remember at the time of leaving, even flying, I was in Kalpa.
Yes.
I was in the Pilots Association. So there was a lot going on. So it wasn't like I was really looking to leave. But I think it got to a point where I had to make a choice that,
that
I can't
fork in the
both.
road comes.
Yes, I was like, okay, now I have to make a decision. I think that's what really happened. It's not like I really focused on leaving. And most guys, when they give people advice, they say that you have to quit your job and then you pursue what you would like, your dream. But me, I wouldn't. I tell guys, if you're secure somewhere, just be good at what you're doing. Then an opportunity will come. And then if you're really good in whatever other opportunity, that's fine. But now just deciding to jump just because, it's my dream and you're living something you're good at, it's also a risk.
So serendipity played a part. The timings are aligned.
Exactly. But somehow the timings were correct. Then, yeah.
Well, before we get to sportpesa, because you've just aptly mentioned you are part of KALPA. KALPA is Kenyan Airlines Pilots Association, right? It's the union that protects pilots, especially airline pilots. Being a union board member is a very political position.
I think that was my new, my first time into politics.
When you got in there, was that, what got you into that?
I think other people, the way people tell you should just go and, vie for the seat. Then you're like, okay, let me do it.
They had seen some representative benefits that you had.
And especially the older pilots.
Yeah.
Of course, conversations in KQ are there's a lot of KALPA talk.
Yes.
Union talk, even when you're on flights. The conversation will get into KALPA somehow. Because this issue of foreign pilots coming to KQ, it's not anything new. It has been there when I was there at KALPA. It was there even before I got into KALPA. So conversations are always there about pay, about protecting jobs. So I think from discussing with the older captains then they can start encouraging you. When they notice how you're discussing about those issues, they tell you should, vie for the seat.
That means you're good with your manuals and you knew the policy, etc.
Yes.
And you know where they were stretching policy.
Exactly.
So is it true that in KQ you're either a union guy or a company guy?
Yeah, now, and let me tell you, when I was in KALPA, it's the first time in my life I got sleepless nights. Because you're representing people is very difficult. And now we're talking just about pilots. So I'm the boss of the pilots and I'm telling them, we need to do 1, 2, 3 things because we want to achieve this or the other. Then you have some guys who are fighting you.
From the fraternity itself.
And you're telling, I'm doing this for you. I'm not I have no benefit I'm gaining. And in terms of unions, the KALPA officials, at least for the time I was there and before, they have no benefit. They don't gain anything.
There's no salary?
There's
allowance?
No allowances. There's nothing.
And does the company immediately look at you as a adversary?
Correct, because now you're always on opposite sides of the table. I always used to make this joke that Naikuni is the one who
we'll put that picture exists. Yeah, we'll put it here.
Then I'm the one who now we're on the opposite sides of the table fighting over
Titus
everything.
Naikuni actually gifted Captain Ronald it was a watch for being the top performer.
Yes, in Addis.
And for context, Titus Naikuni was a CEO in KQ. So A few years later, now your union company, so you're at odds. You return the watch.
That one was long gone.
So now moving gears to sportpesa, man. Whether people will always remember you for this, because in many ways it's part of your legacy. In fact, more than even the KQ flying part is just
somehow sportpesa erased my whole past.
And you are talking about sports betting at the highest level in a time where no one really knew what this was. So what was your entry or introduction into sports betting?
That's the interesting one, because now I had become a gambler. I still play poker to this day.
Yes.
I don't know if you know poker.
Yes.
Texas Hold'em, the one you play for money. So what happened is that I had started getting an interest in poker by watching some ESPN shows, whatever. Then, the way you play poker at home, not real money. Then one day you decide, you know what, I think I'm a good player. Let me go play in the casino. So I started playing in a certain casino. Then we became friends with the
here or abroad?
Here in Nairobi. Became friends with the owner of the casino. And then that's now when the conversation started of, the guy says, I'm going to start sports betting. This is how it should work, blah, blah, blah. So I took an interest into it and I said, I'm going to be part of it. That's actually how it started.
Did you leverage your natural people skills to even have, by the time you're having such a conversation, not anyone in that casino was just having that conversation with the guy. So you leverage that.
Yes. You need to, you see, when the beauty of poker is you can tell people's character immediately from how they play or how they interact, how they react to losing money, how they react to winning money. So that way you can click with someone and, guys can know your character from that. So once we got to know each other, you can know honest people, you can know thieves, you can know everything from the table. So that's how we ended up now just having that discussion.
And the concept was from a different market that you wanted now to transpose here? Or
No, it had never happened. When we did SMS betting, it had never been done anywhere in the world. In fact, what used to happen is that when you mention that, because there are these conferences, when you go to a gaming conference, like any other conference, people bring new technology and show you, this is the new app, for example, for betting, it does this. Then you imagine someone comes and says, okay, instead of app, we want to use SMS. So these guys will be like, you guys are talking about Stone Age. What are you discussing? We don't want even to discuss that story. So it had never been done because people were just going forward in technology. They would never think, anyone wants to use SMS to bet.
So what tickled your fancy about the SMS concept?
So I think at the time we were like, this is a good idea because now that's how people can interact. Because at the time, now apps are big. At the time, apps were not as big for people to download apps to do something.
That is true. This is 2014.
2015.
2015. Apps were not.
Apps were like, not everyone had data.
Yes.
Not everyone had a smartphone. Now, a high percentage of the population has a smartphone. But now, if you want something, that at the time, SMS was completely different because the access, that thing of how to code the bet in a simple way on an SMS format, those kind of things.
So from that conversation, how does that now translate to now actually forming a company and starting and being part and parcel?
So now that time, now it's a company, so it needs investment. How many shares do you want? Do you have money? So at the time, the only thing I had was some piece of land, which I think could raise some money. So I sold it for around 24, 25 million.
Hold up.
Yeah.
You're a skipper.
Yes.
You are a father by that time?
Yes.
Married guy.
Yes.
The reason I'm asking this part is because you're a married guy.
Yes.
You cannot not run things by your wife. So at the apex of your aviation career, from the outside looking into many,
in
Kalpa at the helm, how are you then convincing your wife or convincing even your inner sanctum, your family, whoever it may be, that by the way, I want to sell that land to invest in this company that perhaps might not even make sense to anyone?
Yes.
I think
it's just a matter of trust. Because, you have the conversation and think, this is a big idea, let me do this. I think it was just a matter of trust, nothing else.
And how important was the support from like your loved ones in such a big decision? Because I've always been of a school of thought for either the route you just said or either you bulldoze and you're like, you'll see later.
Yeah. I think it was a bit of both, to be honest. I don't think I shared so much of exactly what was going on. But I think because of the trust, it was never an issue. Yeah, but I never like disclosed all the details.
Yes.
Of, you know.
Yes.
Yeah, but because of the trust, I think it was okay at the time. I think an issue started arising when it came to I need to quit. You get it. But before then, it wasn't
and that's the part me I really wanna focus on, and because that is such a big decision.
Very big.
And KQ don't have they're not known for taking you back at
Yes.
At the comeback, seniority maintained.
No.
If you're coming back, you're starting from.
You're supposed to, yes.
So by the time you actually appended your signature on the resignation letter, you were all in.
Now, you know, because now what happened was now the company was operational. Now SportPesa is running.
How long was this from the time you inception to resignation from KQ?
I think maybe a year or a year and a half. I think approximately.
And how are you juggling?
No, you see, now when SportPesa started, I was not involved at all.
Okay.
All in the running. All I could get is updates. You know, we have 2 guys have registered.
Yes.
3 guys. You know, you get those updates, but I was never involved. So that request came later now. That's when the request came. You know what? We think you should come and run the company. And that's when now I had to think, should I quit? Should I what? But my experience now then in business, I was like, because even at Skylax, we used to have issues with the other directors. Me, I was never there, you know. So I said, this one, if it's going to work, I just need to be there.
Need to put you.
So one day I just said, you know what? Let me just make the decision.
Did the ceiling in aviation also play a part? You know, you kind of know the max.
Yes, it did, but to some extent. Yes, it did. Because you see, you're right. It's like, okay, yeah, I can stay, but how much, where else am I going, you know?
At best,
yes.
Dreamliner Command.
I change fleet.
Yes.
Fleet.
And then ride it out to the sunset.
Exactly. And then there's this other opportunity, and if it works out...
Life-changing.
Exactly. So that also played a big part. But now, not many people could see it that way. Like, okay, this guy, they're seeing it from the outside. You're a captain. What are you? Why would you do that? Because now that one to them also is a gamble. You're gambling for a gambling company.
And let me ask you, because that would mean in this journey you are the vision bearer in many ways, and that sometimes can be a lonely path because other guys are not seeing.
Yeah.
You're the one who's seeing.
Yes.
And you had to stick to your guns.
Yes.
So did you wait for feasibility when you started seeing this thing is starting to?
Yes.
The reports.
It was really picking. But I could never predict how big it would get, of course. And that's why it was still a risk, you know. It was still a risk. At the time, it was still a risk, like quitting a job, you know, you will work until you retire and you're fine for something else. Because you could quit. It could work for 2 years, 3 years,
yes,
and fails. So it was still a huge risk.
What about the idea of hanging up your wings? That raw love for flying.
Yes, now that also was a challenge because even nowadays when you get on a plane, you feel like, I need to touch the controls a bit.
Have you considered doing like a recurrency for the sake of it?
I might. It's because now I really don't have time. Now I've taken on too many responsibilities. But I think at some point I'll have to
But if you close your eyes and open your eyes and you woke up in a 7-3, you can take us from Upnom to 206.
It'll probably be illegal and unsafe, but for sure I can.
That's good. That's comforting to hear.
For sure I can.
So now when does it start from just feasibility to now, wow, this thing is becoming something. It's becoming big.
So when I got in, now, as I told you, we could start seeing the numbers of how many people are registering. It really started to blow up. The numbers started really, really growing. And the growth was crazy because I don't think there's any other company that grew that fast.
Yeah, because SportPesa, I remember, just appeared into like a mainstream brand all of a sudden.
Because if you look at it, it was between 2015, probably when we launched, and by the time we were being closed, the brand, which was in Formula One, Everton, everything, that's like 5 years.
Yeah.
And then by the time we are closed,
so
5 years only. And you've done all that.
So let me ask you, because you went from student pilot, Kenya Airways pilot, probably top 2% earner in Kenya, to now like top 0.00% in the world. And how did you keep your faculties or your wits about you when you started making that crazy money? Because it's no secret, I'm not being mannerless. It's no secret that you've made some chums, right?
Yeah.
So how did you keep your sanity? You seem like a very grounded individual.
I think, I don't know. I think it's just, it depends on the person. To me, that's what I think. I never had any sort of urge to, go crazy. I don't think I...
You didn't go home and be like, honey, we're moving on up.
No, I don't think I ever had that. I don't know. I never had that, to be honest.
First down purchase, like just to confirm, like, yo, now I have...
A Breitling.
A real one.
Of course. Because now you're a pilot.
Yeah.
When you're a pilot, the one watch you want.
A Breitling. We'll put one on the screen for the audience to see, man.
Yeah, the Navy timer, of course. You know it.
Yes. You treated yourself.
Yeah, that was you're like, okay, now I can afford.
And what was the first figure that was like, higher? This is mine. This is my share.
That's what I would say. That's what I would
say. Fair enough. You don't have to get specific about the exact numbers. Yeah. But like you said, you ended up having a company that sponsored the likes of Everton. This is unimaginable.
Yeah.
Even in today's time, such a thing is... In fact, a lot of people have now copy-pasted and tried to replicate what SportPesa initially did. And you sponsored an F1 team. And sponsoring at this level means, of course, you're going there, you're rubbing shoulders with some of the owners, the coaches. F1, you're on the floor, like VIP. So what's that experience like for you? Is it surreal as it's happening? Is it surreal? Are you the same guy just, oh, wow, this is really cool. Oh, my God, I can't believe this is happening. Are you having to pinch yourself every so often?
So, I don't know. Maybe I'm one of those guys, I think, who has a problem because I don't get overly excited. But it's really an experience when you get to meet all these people and realize yes, normal human beings.
Yes.
Sometimes some of these guys look they're out of this world. Then you realize it's just there's no difference between any of them and you. Yeah. So it was really, really, really an experience. But with the experience, the stress also is there because at every point we were dealing with issues, So
troubleshooting.
Yeah, because I think we got to a point, it's like we flew too close to the sun.
Yes. We're getting there. I'm building towards that.
Yeah, but yes, initial, as we're growing, it was really amazing. Because to see something that started from nowhere and the success, and for it to be now a household name. I remember the first time we got Everton, Arsenal. We had like a partnership, not sponsors, but a partnership. They came to train. But the first time, we got Hull City to be on the shirt of the team.
Yes.
Then you can see SportPesa, in the perimeter boards in the stadium in the UK. There's even a time we put the Kenyan flag there, So that was really, really amazing.
So are guys now, society, your peers, and just the general society of people what's their view of you at this time? Like people you left perhaps in the airline?
Just the feeling I got, they were just happy for the success. Because I think nobody knew where SportPesa would go. There are even pilots I had approached, asking them whether they would like shares initially. They're like, this guy, man, he's a madman. He's a gambler. What is he telling us to? Telling us to invest in?
And the dividends would have paid off heavily.
Of course.
Other guys who tried coming again, like, hey, by the way, can we?
It was
too late.
Too late, man, because they're all taken.
Any naysayers? Initial naysayers?
Yeah, of course. Almost everyone, man. Almost everyone, because
he's a madman.
So people don't know. Nobody knows the maths of gambling, or nobody knew the maths. Okay, this is how it works. Nobody knew, so nobody could predict it. They just saw it as a gamble in itself. Like even if you tell someone this is the business you want to invest in, they would be like, "You're a mad guy."
You have to invest in gambling.
Yes,
you want me to gamble with gambling.
Yes, as opposed to now, if you tell someone there's an opportunity, they're like, oh, that industry makes money. At the time, nobody cared at all. So they were like, this guy, I think he's been gambling too much.
Did that do
why.
Did that do anything for your ego in terms of, because naysayers, and then now it's working?
No, it didn't. Because now, for me personally, the way I've grown up, and I've always been confident in what I'm doing. Nothing will stop me from, because by the time I'm doing that, there's something I've thought about. So it didn't really do much.
That's a very powerful thing, doing things against even naysayers. Because sometimes a mistake we make as anyone who's trying something different, you can look for validation in the wrong places.
Yes. And no one is like you.
And it can end up discouraging you.
Yes. You don't need to. Guys can destroy your dreams if you just keep listening to everybody.
Keep listening.
Yeah.
Wow. And what about requests for handouts? Like, hey, bro, you look like you're doing well.
Yeah, but I don't think it got to where it is right now, because now I got into politics, so that's a different dimension. But yeah, there was a bit of that, not so crazy, to be honest. Yeah, but not so crazy.
So at some point, you've said, words out of your mouth, you guys flew. Who's the guy? Icarus. Who's the guy who flew too close to the sun? Yes.
Icarus,
yes. And you perhaps ruffled a few feathers without being specific about the feathers that you ruffled, because it's another thing that I've mulled about in my own thinkings about you. In that you entered sportpesa, you're doing clean business. It's grown. It's fantastic. And then at some point now, some levers are coming from other places. So what was that introduction into the murky waters of business and politics?
Yeah, that was a tough lesson for me. And my partners were white people, and they can give you when you speak to white people, they can give you a different experience of Kenya. Now, as we grow up and we think Kenya is so nice, things are working, and even if there's this bribery, you need to bribe a cop for you've been stopped somewhere. Everyone in Kenya knows that, like, that's the system, how it normal, is. Yeah. But from someone who's a foreigner, they feel harassment. They feel harassed, to be honest. It's a really unfortunate thing. So you can never get that picture. Why I was saying that is that at some point, as sportpesa is growing, some of my partners are saying, look, hey, this company, the way it's growing, we're going to run into problems. Then me, on the other hand, I'm like, no, Kenya is nice. You cannot. Why? We're not doing anything illegal.
Tax compliance.
Why would anyone?
You want awards for tax?
Yes. Why would anyone disturb us? There's nothing we're doing wrong. They're telling me, I think, this thing, but me at the time, honestly, I think everything will be very okay. Remember me, I've come from school. I've gotten ab initio. I've gone to Kenya Airways. Kenya is amazing.
It's land of dreams.
Yes, it's better than America. I've done, all I've done is to work hard, and everything has worked. I don't see anything wrong. So then, stuff just starts happening. You're like, Kwani, what's going on? And at some point, I was thinking it's even a misunderstanding.
Oh, you need to clarify one or two things.
Like even that time we were appearing in the Senate.
Yes.
I was called to the Senate because KRA are closing us. We were being closed every month. Every month we are getting agency notices from KRA telling us we need to pay, I don't know how much money they send to close our pay bills. We go to court, we get court orders to stop them. That's when now you appear at the Senate to explain. I'm telling them, look, why, first of all, are betting control closing us? KRA are talking about taxes. What's the interlink? KRA doesn't have powers to. It was just.
So when from that initial point where you thought all I need to go is some documentation to clarify, hey guys, look, this is this.
Yes.
To the point where you realize, wait, this is more than.
Yes.
What point was that?
Mm-hmm. So I think I was getting like red flags here and there. Then I just ignore them. That patriotism, like that. Look, these guys, man. You're like, you know what? No, the president is a nice guy. He can't do this. Matiang'i was the face of destroying our sector.
Yes.
So
I remember
and I could tell him it was just no reason. He's just after us completely. Like, you wonder, what have I done to this guy? And the funny thing is that we never used to interact with government people. Maybe one of our shareholders, Paul Ndungu, used to know Uhuru, they were friends or whatever. But the rest of us, we are businessmen, we just do business. So I never really linked the politics into it, but later on to realize, like, we have a problem. We have a big problem in this country.
Did anyone send emissaries?
There were no emissaries. I think the way they were operating is they squeeze you until you go talk to them and maybe then you talk about shares if that's what they want or something. So I think that was the modus.
Threats of even a hostile takeover, I'm sure, were there.
No, but see, there was nothing being mentioned, especially not to my knowledge. Yes. Maybe they were talking to whoever they know in the company, but nobody was mentioning anything. Us, we're just being harassed, like, then you see the president going somewhere and saying, everyone must pay taxes. These guys are like what is this guy talking about? But yeah, it was a crazy time, I'm telling you.
So is that a fundamental lesson for anyone who aspires to do huge, colossal business in an environment or a context like ours?
And let me tell you, that's a problem we have in Kenya. Now, I'm speaking even from the politics side. And I remember there's one time I sat with a guy who was a politician. I told him, in Kenya, if we create an environment where we only show that politicians are the ones who make money, and we don't even know how they make the money, they just get rich. And then, if you have successful businessmen who are making money, you don't, even them you kill.
And so publicly and so roughly.
Then we're not going to have a country, because even now, you start asking kids when they grow up what they want to be.
MP.
Why? Let me tell you, even this job of mine, there's nothing I've gained as an MP. I'm just giving and giving. I'm not seeing any benefit, because when I got in, it was because I recognized we have a problem. We do have a big problem in leadership in Kenya, and it came from that.
So from the outside purview, and I stand corrected, it would look in the Kenyan context, whenever someone as successful as you enters politics, we always assume it's to protect business interests.
Yes.
And of course, also, from what you're saying, also you want to change it from within.
Yes.
So where does that balance?
So, and that's a misconception, because you see, from where I reached, or from where we reached, we were now able to protect the business, because there was all these stories. Pevans was closed. So there were two companies.
Yes.
Pevans was shut down by the government. We were fought and blah, blah, blah. So we managed to get another company and get sportpesa up and running. And by that time now we've understood, because remember, there are businessmen who do big business in Kenya who have managed to work into politics, not necessarily by being politicians. Do you get my point, right? Big business. And not that they're not in politics, because there's no way their businesses are going to survive if they don't find a way to survive.
Yes.
So I would have survived either way. Yes. We would have survived. We would have found a way to survive, because the business was operating and we would have survived. But getting into politics for me was like, now you realize the problem is so big. And since I have an opportunity, I saw like I have the power and an opportunity to get in. I was like, you know what? I can't keep complaining from the outside. Let me try get into politics. And if there's a chance, maybe we'll try and change things from the inside. That was the sole reason. People say it's to protect, but how many big businessmen are out there and you never hear them inside, like they've run for office?
That's a very key point of change in my thinking, because yes, someone can easily then protect themselves from outside, just do the underhanded necessary things that are...
And it can be done.
So how... and before we move now to the politics, because that point of where you guys were attacked relentlessly by Gava, what did your home life look like?
No, it was crazy, because at some point, you see, the beauty of sportpesa, at some point, and then the media was being used, because at some point, even I got to learn some of the media, they had an assignment every 2 weeks. It must be a sportpesa story, and my face must be there.
Disparage. Oh my goodness.
So forget even just everything else. It was like people are just destroying your reputation, because there were stories of money laundering. And remember, our business is all online M-Pesa transactions. Because I remember there's a time even I was called by DCI. So they call me and they tell me, we need to check your bank statements for the company to see blah, blah, blah. So they were saying for them to get the statements, they need a court order. So I told them, there's no need, you don't need to go get a court order.
I'm willing.
Come, which you want from which year to which year? Because I was trying to explain to them, our transactions are M-Pesa to bank.
What I'm hearing resoundingly is a coordinated attack with the state machinery.
Yes.
From all sides.
Yes.
Wow.
So at some point my fear was, because that's the question you asked, I thought maybe they'll cook up something just to arrest me. Yeah, so there's a time it was quite crazy because you're wondering, you're becoming a fugitive for no reason.
With this media, people attacking, in fact, even your personality and image, are people in your inner circle having any doubts like, hey, when you're London?
Yes, once the same story keeps getting repeated so many times, people start thinking there must be a little bit of truth in it. And that's why, for me, like today, from my experience before, anything I see in the media, and this is something many Kenyans don't know, our media got to a point whereby it was like a tool,
Pay for play.
Yes. And that's why even whatever, I encourage Kenyans, whatever you read in the newspaper, whatever you see on social media, do your own research.
Yes.
There's too much stories which are paid for, which are out there that you don't know. And that I got from my own experience, because I could see in the newspaper so many stories that you just read the paper, you're like, these guys, where did they get this?
So
where did they get this?
How do you stay resolute then in terms of such a tough time? Like, how do you stay sane? How are you relaxing? How are you having moments to yourself where you can switch off the noise?
Do you know, I can't even explain it, because I think it's just something that it must be in you, I guess, because it was tough. And that's why I'm saying that the first time I got sleepless nights was in Kalpa, because of the pilots. You're trying to please everyone before you realize, because the lesson there you learn, you can never please everybody. Someone can be attacking you and hates you to death, whatever you do. And that's the time I got sleepless nights. So when this came, really, it wasn't a big deal. Because remember, at the same time, we were supporting sports to another level that has never been done. Then people still turned against me, even like maybe on social media, anything, because the stories are being hammered. And Kenyans, we want to say, we want to have people who make money clean, and they exist. But one person comes, or two, who actually is making clean money, then because of our conditioning, we don't even believe this guy is making clean money.
Did you get any?
Like, there's something wrong. This guy there's no way that money is clean. There must be a problem. Whatever those stories, there must be true. So
it's so sad because I remember sports through you guys as a sponsorship of local sport rugby. It was on such a positive,
let me tell you,
trajectory.
Where we were heading, we would have been so far. But somehow it even became an issue, because I remember, I'm not going to mention, one person said, "Kwani these guys, who do they think they are? We as government, we can do the sports. Let them go to hell."
You're outshining.
Yeah, I'm like, we are not doing it to compete with government, because government, they have their stuff to do. And then sports always is propped up by private sector. Arsenal is not sponsored by government. Yeah, it's Emirates.
Yes.
Right? Yes. So all the teams are sponsored by private companies. You need private sector to come in and pump money into sports.
So there's an incongruence with where we want to go versus the mentality that exists in Gava. There's a huge gap.
There's a huge gap, because they need to know you have to separate. And if you don't support private business, there's no way government can do anything. And that's one of the problems we have in Kenya now. Because now everything, it becomes a government problem. If you don't support private sector, for example, we talk about jobs. You cannot say you want to support jobs, and then at the same time, you're crashing private sector, either using KRA, not supporting people to start businesses. And then what will happen is that every mwananchi will expect government to give them jobs. Government can't give everyone jobs.
And before we go to politics, did anyone call you like Illuminati?
Everything, like, but no. And that's what I'm saying. Kenyans, sometimes we are our own worst enemies. Because when I'm being crucified, I'm being attacked by people who don't even know me. Why? Because I somehow the business was successful and it has made money. At the same time, you want to say people should make money outside of politics and businesses should be supported. But when one is being crucified, you are happy to
oh my God, man. And that's deeply entrenched in our society. So you ran for member of parliament as an independent. And I'm sure in the lead up to, I'm sure both factions, well, the main ones at least, did they try court you?
Yeah, so if you don't remember, I was in Jubilee first. So what happened, now I was to pick which party to run with. At this particular time, UDA is also being fought completely. They are being fought and they are being destroyed. And then remember, at SportPesa, I'm not a sole shareholder. I've got partners. Whatever, my action should not put the business at risk. So I decided, let me run on the safe option where the business is not going to be closed. So I went on Jubilee. I go on Jubilee. Of course, I was doing well. Then the ticket was given to somebody else.
How does that nomination work? Is it a highest bidder thing?
This one, there's supposed to be nominations, right? Like we go to the polls. Yes. But remember this time they said they should have consensus.
Oh, yes, this specific time.
Remember.
The nominations happened in 2017.
Yes.
This time
they said consensus in Jubilee.
Yes.
Remember? So we go for a consensus meeting. There's the sitting MP and 2 other candidates in Jubilee. So they're saying, you guys need to agree who we give the ticket. So I asked the guy, how do you expect the sitting MP to agree
to give somebody
else the ticket? Doesn't make any sense. Then I even told them, okay, you guys, you have your polls, which you look at. Why don't you look at the polls? If you find in the polls that I'm not
the forerunner,
the forerunner, I actually give it up. They just
that conversation ended there.
Then I saw she's been given the ticket. There's a time she had camped at Jubilee offices daily, causing mayhem. I was like, I'm not going to do that. If that's what it means to me to get the ticket, I'm not going to do that, because why have we been campaigning all this time? So yeah, the ticket went to Jubilee, and that's how I ended up independent.
And as an independent, you end up winning.
Yes.
And how did that feel? Like, again, I know you said you're not a guy of pride.
No, that one felt nice. Let me tell you. Let me tell you why. So these guys have given me the ticket. So my biggest concern was, will it happen again at the main election? Should I continue only to be robbed at the main election? So I consulted a few guys, and the good thing, that's why the things Raila has done in terms of election reform and IEBC, they yielded fruit, because those laws of every polling station is the final result. They helped me.
But Skipper, let me ask you a very honest question, perhaps even a naive one.
Yes.
Are our elections primarily about ones and zeros? Like, if
in terms of,
if you have 10, I have 5. Have you won because you have 10, or is it perception?
In terms of cash?
No, not money. Number of votes, like number of votes casted and counted. Is it primarily about that, or there's the perception of, at least I had to look like I can beat you, or we're 50-50, and then whoever chases.
No. Now, when you get to the main election, you win. If you win, you win.
Okay.
And that's where the agents issue comes up. Because remember, when you're counting the votes, there's your agent and my agent and another person's agent. And once that form is signed, that is the result. So if your agent is not there, then...
But how impenetrable are agents if I have the right financial force behind me?
You can, but it's tricky. I tell you why. Remember, every polling station, like for example, if we have a school and the school has 10 classrooms, each one of the classrooms is considered a polling station, individual. And every one of them, you'll have to bribe all 10. It's a very heavy exercise if you're trying to bribe your way through. It's not as simple as it sounds.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I learned now. And especially for when you come to the MP election, very difficult to rig it.
But now,
difficult.
As an independent, of course, there's that bravado of, I won. Which is just a natural instinct for human beings.
No, that's why it was sweet. That's why I'm telling you it was sweet. Because I used to meet the UDA candidate. Now I'm independent. Then he tells me, you don't have votes. Us, Jubilee, the candidate is starting from a base of 20,000 already, even without the individual's votes. He started from a base because there are people who go there to look for Jubilee.
Yes.
And then me for UDA, I already have my votes. You're starting from scratch. So you're telling me you're going to be number 3. I don't know why you're wasting your time.
And then you won. As a member of parliament, a lot of times I feel like as a people, perhaps we get the role of an MP wrong. We tend to think it's about specific development at CDF.
Yes.
When primarily it's lawmaking, right?
It is, yes. And that's why there are a lot of discussions about CDF, the fund, and the problem is, even when you go down and you're campaigning to the people's problems and expectations are completely different. Like, yes.
Karambe.
Yes, I would like for it to be only that my work is to legislate. But when in reality on the ground, there's so many issues that they look up to you to be the problem solver for everything. So that being the case, it becomes, the separation becomes a bit blurred in terms of what is the primary focus, or what primarily should I focus on in terms of ensuring, because remember, when you're voted in, I have my people, who in this case is Kasarani people. So they voted me in with certain expectations. And those expectations are the ones I'm primarily supposed to meet. Forget what people will insult me on Twitter, because now suddenly I'm a politician. It means you have to be insulted by people you don't even know. Every day I'm getting insults.
Have you developed thick skin?
I don't know who these people are. Huh?
Have you developed thick skin, or that one has happened over from Kalpa days?
Exactly. The beauty is I've always had thick skin. So I've been insulted. I've even been called gay in social media. But I just look at those things, and for me, they don't affect me. I don't even respond. I don't really care, because that's why I'm saying that blur between legislation, and that's the beauty of what is happening in Kenya now. People are really, really waking up, because I was woken up rudely because of sportpesa. And that was a personal experience, which other people could not see the problems we had at the time. And probably that's why even though I was the victim, I was still being attacked. But now people are waking up and seeing they need to get involved. Me, that's the beauty right now. Because once people get involved, and once people realize involvement doesn't mean just shouting.
Yes.
You need to get into the mud as well. Then we'll have a good future.
Where does CEO of a big company measure with CEO of a constituency in terms of demand on you?
Yeah. Now the difference is, and the good thing is just the CDF fund, as in you have to just make sure every projects are done, those kind of things. But the problem as CEO, you have deliverables. I have targets I need to meet. When you're in politics, you have to cater to some other needs.
Political needs as well.
Other than just delivering on your mandate, what you're supposed to do.
I always empathize with politicians, and in this way, because how fun is it to dance at those functions?
It depends on the function.
Sometimes,
it depends.
Of course.
When I'm in schools with my people, it's fun.
It's fun.
But if it's... the good thing I'm not in a party, so I don't have to go for
all
party
those
events. I don't know.
Do those guys enjoy those things?
I have no idea. But let me tell you, there are people who enjoy those. There are people who love politics.
Yeah.
Like, love it. You have no idea. I've come to realize they love it, love.
So being an independent in parliament, you don't have that political sway or a phone call perhaps coming your way about voting on a certain bill. But I would be wrong if I didn't ask about the finance bill.
Yes, it's a good, no problem.
Which you famously voted yes for.
Yes, second reading.
What was the thought process? What was your philosophy around that?
Now is a good time to talk. And that's why I was saying, at the time, could not have a conversation with anyone, because...
Exclusive every other time with Eric.
And that time we could not talk, because that time there was you could not have a variance of opinion. You could not have a different opinion from someone saying this is bad or good. That time, if you say anything about finance bill, you're attacked, insulted.
Yes.
So I said, you know what, I'm going to keep quiet on this. But this is my opinion. When the finance bill discussion started, it was a real discussion, because finance bill is a bill which comes every year, and it's a bill which is supposed to be tabled every year. And if there are any changes, it's adopted. Remember, the budget by that time is already passed. So finance bill is the financer of the budget. If the budget is 3 billion and 2.4 is supposed to come from taxes, finance bill will say where this 2.4 will come from. I remember there's a time in parliament I even asked one of the opposition MPs, this budget is crazy, it's too much, it's 4 trillion. We're not going to get this money. The guy told me, no, this one will pass, then we'll fight finance bill. Then there you can already see the dishonesty in politicians, because I already had an issue with that budget. Okay, now fast forward, finance bill comes. Now, when the discussion started, it was a good discussion. Why? Because it was centering on specifics. For example, people say, no, we cannot have milk being taxed. We cannot have bread being taxed. We cannot have sanitary towels being taxed. That's a conversation.
Were those diversionary though? Those specific like red button?
But you see, that's the conversation. So that now, even if it's cutting the budget, because if I'm your representative, you read the finance bill. Then you tell me, look, this finance bill should not pass because of 1, 2, 3, 4. They need to be removed. Now that's a conversation. But if it goes to yes or no, now I think that is not a finance bill issue. I don't know what, I'm telling you now my train of thought.
Yes.
And this is second reading. Second reading, we pass it, then the last reading, when the third reading is when you pass the bill. So if I say yes in second reading, and then whatever we have been championing for has not gone through the way we want it, then we drop it in the third reading. But remember, there's no conversation we're having. There's no real conversation.
It was too hot.
It's no. You just say no. I had a conversation with people in Kasarani in one of the WhatsApp groups, and same conversation. I told them, okay, yes, this bill is bad. I told them, I agree with you. Let's remove, what do you guys want us? We must remove 1, 2, 3, 4 and do this. I told them, okay, fine. If that is done, then we move forward. But then it became a different conversation. And there's a time, when I made the statement in Parliament and I said, Gen Zs have won. That was a premature statement, I have to admit today, because I did not even realize how much they could achieve with the movement to the point where it reached. But my message was, if you don't know when to stop, the movement will lose credibility, even for the future. Because if you seem to be trying to overthrow the government, I don't see the government waiting to be overthrown. Not that I'm condoning any violence. What I'm saying is that depending on who has the government, don't expect him to let go of the government easily. He's not going to let it go.
But your reasons for yes are very legitimate, but from a vantage point. And here's why. Where Kenya has reached, and I think it's even getting worse by the day, the trust deficit is so high.
Correct.
People don't want to read even the first sentence.
Exactly.
Anything that seems that it's from government, we smell a rat. I feel that the government of the day, if they're to save any form of legitimacy, should spend time in terms of creating and building trust again.
Yes.
Now, if I was a politician, I would do cosmetic things, infrastructure. I think that has worked time immemorial, right? KARAURI, something significant that people can touch, brick and mortar, because that trust deficit, you see how well you explain that? It makes sense, but no one was willing to even go that far.
Yes.
Because of how the climate has been. The government would seem like they're getting wrong information, uninformed. They don't understand how annoyed the ground is. They overpromised. So all those things, I think, just coagulated to create this monster called the movement. And do you think post-movement Kenya is changed, or 3 months later things are back to normal, or even worse?
Post-movement, honestly, it has really changed, because everything is under scrutiny now. I don't think, especially in the executive, people will be careless to do crazy things, because people are very awake and they are watching their every movement. And that's why I'm saying that's the beauty of it. It depends on how you execute it. And for example, for me, I had my experience, I decided to get in. The young people who are talking about they want to change Kenya, the problems we've had in Kenya did not start yesterday. This is years and years of electing wrong people into those offices, people who are going there to make money and crazy money. And how do they make that money? Is through corruption and whatever. That has happened throughout the years. Now, there are people who are inciting, and I want people, whenever they listen to people, the voice people listen to, especially on social media, they need to be very careful. If you're listening to people who have lost in elections, stop it. Just listen to people who have not been in that political space. Those are the guys who are speaking the truth. Because you could have some bitter person who has a vendetta against another politician who just wants to see things go south. So you have to listen to the right voices. But things have, honestly, they've changed. So I hope as we go on, people get more involved. And not only on social media. Actively, you have to. There's no other way. Short of overthrowing the government. You see, there's two options. You could overthrow the government and take over and decide, how you're going to run it. And in this democracy of Kenya, it's not an easy route, The closest we got was actually that time for the parliament and whatever. But that happening again, maybe it could happen, but people have to consider, okay, you have to have an end-to-end plan to say, okay, we're going to do this, 1, 2, 3, this is what we're going to, yes.
But I think for it to end up like that, especially the initial part of the movement was the sporadic and real nature of it.
Yes.
I tend to think at some point, of course, certain people saw an opportunity to capitalize.
Exactly.
And that has resulted, and first of all, to all my family members, who what I called it, it has actually culminated in some of the things we're seeing currently.
Yes.
Where someone showed their hand a bit early.
Exactly.
And now they're being muscled out. But now the faceless, leaderless to a point. Then at some point you have to have some form of structure.
Correct.
But this same trust deficit that we have for any form of leader, in fact, it's leadership that's been bastardized. Leadership as a whole, not
exactly. Now
person.
you have the point, because now it has been grouped together. Anybody who is a leader in Kenya is evil. So you're like, okay.
People turn on, like even Morala at some point, people are quickly turning on him.
Yes.
Kasmal, people have turned on him.
Exactly.
So that trying to maintain an eye level while trying to shepherd guys in the right direction, it's almost impossible.
That's the problem. And Morara is heading in the right direction because you see, he's forming a party. You see, this is a political problem, and there's a difference. You could be an activist, which means if you're an activist, whatever government is in place, you will find the faults and decide to go and shout in the streets about it. And there will never be a government with no problems. There is no perfect government.
Yes.
It doesn't exist. Or you'd go also Morara's route and say, this is a political problem, we need a political solution, let's get a party. Get all these people who feel they're involved to come in. Let's people vie for seats across the country using this party. Then that is
there has to be a legitimate route.
Yes. Or as I'm saying, people try to overthrow. Those are the two things. And when you're trying to overthrow the government, it's not as simple as it might sound, or
there's also military.
As nice, yes, or as nice, and you cannot predict what happens after. You could, if you overrule the constitution to take the power, whoever takes that power will also disregard the constitution. So you can't predict what happens after.
I think people romanticize it.
That's what I'm saying.
The idea of overthrowing government until at some point, wait. Let's think this through. But what do you think about this whole impeachment?
So impeachment now, to me, it's not it's not my issue. I voted to see because now the first vote is okay. It meets the threshold. Let's see the charges. There are two sides to this coin. Because politicians, most of them have their issues. People need to take a look at the positive of it, because probably it opens a window for the future, for people to have the power to do what they were even trying to do.
Yes.
I don't know if you get my point.
Yes.
So at the same time, if you look at the charges, because that's what people need to look at. And me, I try to tell people and remind them, I'm the least tribal guy in Kenya. I'm a guy who grew up in Buru. I never knew people's tribes, because you go meet outside and play all of you. You don't know anybody's tribe, right? Yes. Everybody has a short name. Karanja is called Oranjo. So you don't know anybody's tribe. The first time I encountered tribes was when I went to Mangu. Because now people are coming from, these are guys from Nairobi, these are guys from Kisumu, the best guy in Kisumu, blah, blah, blah. That's when you realize. And then there were accents. When I was growing up, there were no accents. We were all speaking Sheng.
Yes.
There's no accent anywhere. So you don't know who is from where. So my biggest issue is Kenyans need to consider where we need to go, because now it's being turned again into a tribal thing. I don't want to involve myself in a tribal thing. I'm independent. I'm in Nairobi. My constituency is not from one tribe. So I need to consider all those things. But my main thing also to consider, remember the president and deputy, they come on one ticket. It is, I am vying for presidency. Then I pick you as my running mate. If it gets to the point where we cannot work together, the country suffers. I think everything suffers.
Yes.
So there has to be a solution to that. Either they shake hands if there's an issue, but most of the time the person who will suffer is the deputy.
And these stories we hear of people banging tables, are those folk tales that are told? Because I was asking someone earlier today, I had coffee with someone I respect so much, and we're discussing, I was like, me as a random airline A4, knowing about a table being banged, is that legit? Can a story come from that far up all the way to someone like me?
That even I don't know.
Or those are created for...
I honestly have no clue. I have no idea. For me, the crazy ones are the ones for amassing wealth and all that stuff, because in this country as it is, people are just suffering. The requests I'm always getting, I have to pay a lot of school fees, hospital bills and whatever. And then when you hear people, those things are happening, if true, it's not fair. It's not fair to Kenyans. And then that's why I'm saying, like, most of the things that are coming through, they were promised to be good things. Because Chief now, of course, is being attacked and everything. But remember, the promise is universal healthcare. That is what the intention is.
Yes.
I don't know if you get my point.
Yes.
So even as legislators, because that is the executive bringing this, the plan. Because I always tell guys, we voted for UDA, who had a manifesto to deliver universal health. Whatever they are doing, they put in the manifesto and they sold to the people. So they're trying to achieve their manifesto. The problem is probably in how they are trying to achieve it. There might be a flaw. And that's why, like for the Adani, remember I've flown through that airport so many times.
Yes.
From the times we loved it to the time now it's been overtaken by everybody else.
Yes.
So we would all love to see the
Some
airport look
upgrade,
nice,
spruced
upgrade, blah, blah, blah. The reality of government not having money is a fact because they can't pay county government. They don't have money, so they probably can't do the airport. PPP might be the way to go. But the problem is, how is it being done? How did Adani come into the picture? Did people go fish for him? Did anyone get bribed? That's the issue. But if things were being done transparently, I don't think any Kenyan would have an issue. So I think Kenya, we're on the right track because everything is under a microscope. So that by the time people trust government again, a lot should change.
Sometimes I fear that the over scrutiny can reach a point where people become laissez-faire about it, where every day it's a story, to the point people just stop even keeping tabs. But you've also said something before we finally go to the final segment. You said this kind of movement for impeachment can also end up backfiring for a future president because it shows at some point the guns can be turned up, all the way up.
Correct.
So there's a precedent being set.
Exactly.
For in my I'll say it free, like extortion and such things, So it's a very delicate dance.
Correct.
In terms of such a political move. So let's see what ends up happening. And what about sportpesa? What's the new?
Sportpesa, the good thing it's more stable because our enemies are left. So yeah, we lost some time because remember we were shut down for almost 2 years. The good thing we had built a brand that people had trusted. So that when we came back, people still came back. So we're doing okay. And hopefully we can get back to where we were. Of course, by the time I've come back, the tax regime has changed. It wasn't really about collecting money. It was about punishing. So hopefully things will change. Then we can get back to sports properly.
We'd love to run a campaign for you at every other time. Just a sportpesa campaign. We can talk that off camera.
Inshallah.
And finally, would you want a higher elective office at some point?
That's an interesting question. When as I said, when I was getting into politics, it's because I felt there was a gap. Now I'm seeing this new renaissance of people coming up, and let me tell you, if some people were to come, honest people were to come into the political arena, I do not need to be here.
It can actually change.
I don't need to be here. I was coming as trying to be the first to encourage other people to come in. But with the way things are going, if we have honest people in leadership, I am